you experienced like a former life where we were Vikings on a battlefield dying together in some epic battle.
Welcome back to the Edit Podcast. We are all the editors of our own lives. It's time to take back control.
Welcome back to the 74th episode of the Edit Podcast, the experiment of the decade. Now, you might be wondering what the experiment of the decade is. I'm glad you asked. We try to make it something that's mysterious. My brother and I, for the last 7 years, have been making a documentary, which is now actually a documentary series, about overcoming anxiety and depression. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
I think you guys have been courageous in taking on this journey where people are still, the most of the people are scared to come out.
But more than that, it's really trying to see what we can do ourselves to... The experiment is, can we cure our depression that we've had for a really long time by basically attempting to pursue our abandoned childhood dreams, which were to become multimillionaires and successful professional athletes. Something that I think a lot of kids these days probably want to be. They want to be rich and famous. They want to be professional athletes. And it sounds cliche, I guess, but that's what we want. And it's hard to like shake that feeling. And once we started opening it up, we realized this is actually what we want. So why don't we actually try to pursue this? And in this podcast, we want to explore all the different things that we've done to try and get closer to that goal. And over the last 7 years, we've tried like countless different things.
And that goal that we have is we're still underway in this endeavor. Right? We've been making it for 7 years, but...
Wait, you're not a multimillionaire yet?
Not yet. Not even close.
You're not a professional athlete?
No. In my head, I am. Both of those things.
But let me just quickly list off some of the things that we've done to give you a sense of what this podcast is really going to be about. So we've done darkness therapy.
It's the morning of the third day right now. But last night, when it was the 48-hour mark, I was just so frustrated and angry that I couldn't be bothered to record anything.
We've done cold exposure.
Look at this. I call it the shrimp.
Breath work.
Letting go. Julian. Letting go.
Ayahuasca.
It's so crazy. It's so totally bizarre.
Other psychedelics like DMT.
One guy said to me, hey, this is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. It's going to fire you out of your body to the other side of the universe. Do you want to do it?
LSD. We are confident that this is LSD, so we're going to take it. You're going to do it now?
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh, now I'm suddenly really nervous. Magic mushrooms. I personally needed to experiment and explore it and kind of see if this might be something that I would recommend to my brother at some point. But I mean, more for myself, to be honest. It's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. We have done mountaineering.
So why do I want to climb mountains? I think this is still something I'm trying to figure out, but it definitely has something to do with me wanting to accept the risk that there is involved in anything that's worth doing. I find that it's it's really difficult to be truly happy unless you are willing to risk something.
We've started doing ultra running.
Can I just get a banana in the hand?
Yeah.
How are your legs?
They're fucking done, mate.
Fucking done.
They're more than done. I don't think I've ever been this tired before.
We've become frequenters of the gym, or whatever you want to call it, gym
Frequent
bros
users
of a gym. Like, you know, taking our health and our fitness. Well, we've become we went vegan for 4 years.
Leave it.
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. Ooh. So, yeah.
Hummus?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh.
Can I have one of those?
Could you hand me one of the
pieces?
Can you just hand me whatever you're grabbing?
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
We did wash the
Can I have
table.
another one?
Just so you know.
It's a little bit small.
breath work.
I think I said breath work. I'm just trying to find this list here. We've done these mega self-help events with Tony Robbins.
And other people.
Meditation.
So wherever you are right now, I'd just like you to just take a moment to get comfortable. Doesn't matter whether you're parked in a stationary car, sat on a train somewhere, maybe you've just arrived home, maybe you haven't left work yet.
We've created our own retreat.
Yeah, we've tried to teach and do healing for others, I guess you could call it, and not just consume it. If you're in a group of people who want the same outcome, you can do 10 times more than if you were just by yourself.
Find your responsibility. Go with fire. Go with pride. Be the warrior of the light. Look how far you already got.
Only thing that keeps me from dry.
Did I mention entrepreneurship, starting a business?
Well, we can go into that. That we both created our own businesses.
Yeah.
Some of ours has been more successful than others. As
I guess you could say.
Yours have been way more successful than mine.
But business is a huge one, because I was talking about this with my wife last night, that all the other modalities, let's call them that, we actually call them medicines.
Yeah.
The medicines that we're choosing to explore, which are obviously not traditional medicines. That's the reason why we call them that. You know, you got breath work, for example, or cold exposure. That's really something that we could probably, let's take cold exposure. We could talk about that for an episode. Or if we're making a YouTube video, we can make a YouTube video about it.
Yeah.
But the entrepreneurship modality or medicine, starting your own business, is, 1,000 episodes. It's like this massive, massive conversation. So many different things, so many different businesses, so many different ideas, so many different ways to do it. So that's going to be a huge part of this podcast. But it's all about reaching this goal and working towards this goal of becoming better.
And if you're talking about what we have done, I think it's also interesting to hear where we were before all that, kind of where the starting point was.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I dropped out of high school when I was 18, 3 months before my final exams. I was doing IB, so at that point, basically almost at the end, but then not really. At that time, I was saying that I dropped out due to struggles with anxiety and depression. Since then, those are terms, specifically depression, that I'm not super big fan of, because I feel like we all have, the things that we struggle with. And I remember I made a post to like my senior grade Facebook group saying that I was struggling with these things, that I had a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, which was the reason why I hadn't been in school for actually 6 months leading up to me finally dropping out. And that led to so many people reaching out and saying what they were struggling with, that parents reaching out saying that they just lost, a close family member and felt similar feelings, or other classmates saying that they had struggled with similar thoughts or fears of death or things like that, which really was the first time I realized that we all have things we struggle with. But back then, you know, I was diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder, was put on antidepressants, which took 4 years to get off just because of how much they impact your brain. I mean, that's a whole other topic to talk about.
4 years?
Yeah.
I thought you were on them for like a couple of months.
No.
4 years?
Years.
When did you start taking them?
In 2016, and I
didn't you stop on the documentary trip?
No, I stopped. I tried to go cold turkey, but then I had these
And then
crazy side effects. I was like hearing electronic sounds in my ears and like couldn't see straight.
Throwing up as well. Well, that might have been just
normal fear,
like being on a cliffside.
And then I first got off them when I was at the sports boarding school in Denmark.
Wow, that's crazy.
But that's a little bit of where I was. I mean, after I dropped out, I lived at home with our parents for a whole year, not applying for a single job. You know, I think the difference between me and you is you've always kind of had a vision of something that you wanted to do with your life, where for me it stopped at being a professional soccer player. And when that didn't follow through, I had no fucking idea.
Yeah.
So I just stopped dead in the tracks where I was 18, and I wanted to do everything that I could to not grow up.
Yeah.
So without giving you our whole life story.
No, but it's relevant.
That's like kind of where we were before, or where I was before we started doing all these things that you just listed out.
I think the key thing is that you went through this stuff, and the way that people attempted to treat it, because you didn't know what to do, was the more traditional routes. So antidepressants.
Yeah.
You were sent to like multiple different therapists, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, I had like 6 different ones.
So, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
There wasn't any of the stuff that afterwards actually made a big difference. And we're absolutely not saying that medication or therapy can't be beneficial to some people, because I know for a fact there are people in my life who have dramatically benefited from it, but it just didn't happen to be the case for either of us. And so what we're really exploring in this podcast is alternative ways of, I guess you could call it healing, but I think we both prefer to look at it as like, what are things that you can do yourself to regain control, confidence, to start doing the things that you love again, and not just to like deal with the core issue itself.
And not necessarily talking about it in a sense of this is the way to do it, because we're still exploring that, right? It's an experiment to see if we can. It's an experiment.
Wifey Wednesdays is so great. You have to harmonize with it.
I can't.
What? Okay. It's Wifey Wednesdays. Welcome to Wifey Wednesdays. To the masses?
This is my wife, Phoebe, and it's Wednesday, and she requested that if she was going to be on this podcast, it was going to be on Wednesdays, because it's Wifey Wednesdays.
Welcome to Wifey Wednesdays. Or Phoebe Fridays, but...
But are you here on your own free will?
I'm here on my own free will.
Or am I forcing you to do this?
I would love like a cup of tea, and that was Molly. That was my dog. That was not me. Dog.
Yeah, there's multiple dogs.
There's like so
I don't
many
think the camera
animals.
can see those dogs.
No, they
anyways.
can't anyways. There's a lot of animals here. Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. It's just late. We're tired.
But if we didn't do this, even though that battery's draining and this battery's draining,
it's gonna be a quick one.
It's gonna be like 5 minutes.
A little quickie after the.
But at least we'll get started, and then we can like. See, it wasn't that hard to set up. Wasn't that hard?
I didn't do anything.
No, but I was surprised. It was easy to set up. Okay, my second question is, do you know the name of the podcast?
No. No, I'm going to throw out a guess. Dragon Boys.
No.
Dragon Boys on the pod.
Nope.
Something to do with a dragon.
It has nothing to do with the dragon. We completely moved away from that. We might the company might not even be called Dragon anymore. Everything's changing all the time.
Okay, fine. Yep. Why would I expect that? I don't know. The edit podcast.
It's called the Edit Podcast, and then subtitle
Experiment.
No, the Experiment of the Decade.
Oh, wow.
What do you think?
Flatter yourself.
What do you think? What do you think of the name?
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's
You
pretty
like it?
cool. You do a lot of different experiments.
Like what?
Which I
What
do
kind of
not
experiments?
partake, but I don't like having your wife on a podcast on a Wednesday.
But what do you think? What are the experiments that we do?
Just a lot of wellness experience to better yourself, self development. Like, why is that funny?
I don't know.
You awkward?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm like a little sweaty right now. Yeah, like 1 minute you're doing psychedelics, then you're in the ice bath, then you've been sober for a long time. You're just into that. Anything goes, you know?
So it's kind of been 7 years since I started these experiments.
Started your journey.
My journey.
Yeah.
What has the last 7 years been like living with me?
Living with you? Oh boy, it's been a roller coaster.
Explain yourself.
I don't know. I like when people are so. First, we should preface that we have been in a committed relationship for many, many years.
How many?
I don't know. Like 12? Is it 12?
It's 13 this December.
13?
Is it the 17th today? In a month, exactly, plus 2 days. It's been 13 long years.
Okay, oh my God. It's been 13 long years. No, but it has. So it's been like, it's really been, people are like, oh, wow. You know, that's with the, I don't know, maybe connotation of like, oh, how boring. It's not boring, let me tell you. It's, you've been a lot of different people.
Most recently, Dragon.
Most recently, Dragon, and he is making me call him that.
No.
No.
Although on Instagram the other day, you were kind of shocked.
I have to send reels and memes to Dragon and not Mads, and I was genuinely confused. I thought you like blocked me. I was like, where'd he go?
Who was this Dragon?
I was like, no, I couldn't find you. I was like, oh, that's awkward. I was like, who is Dragon in my messages?
But the last 7 years have been interesting. A lot of different phases, a lot of different, now I'm suddenly going to do this.
Yeah,
now
a lot
I'm
of
suddenly
different,
going to do
like,
that.
needing to sit me down and, like, introduce me to, like, the next thing that you're going to, like, try or be.
What was the biggest kind of, like, what the fuck thing that I sat you down and told you I was going to do?
I think the biggest thing for me was when, if you don't know what I'm going to say.
I'm not sure.
I think the biggest thing was when you decided to like just head first dive.
I still don't know what you're going to say.
Into like the Tony Robbins stuff.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because
I thought you were for sure going to say the drugs.
No, because you were pretty like far gone at that point when you did the drugs.
What do you? That was after Tony.
Yeah, because like
arguably a bigger drug.
That's what I mean. Like Tony, it was a very kind of like just like a shift for me because I hadn't really seen so much of like that side of you. And then suddenly like the things that I was seeing when you were like doing the events or like it didn't match up with I feel like the person I knew. You're very kind of reserved, introverted, like serious. Like you're very serious and you're not very social.
Wow. That's me.
No, but so then it was suddenly quite jarring to see you like, because it is like a little alarming if you're not used to it. Like, I am strength. I am, or like whatever you say.
I, Mads Fire, see, hear, feel, and know that my purpose in life is to use fiery passion to forge powerful souls that will choose to have the courage to change this fucking world! Yeah!
Like shouting these
Affirmations.
The affirmations, the thing. And I just like, I just wasn't really used to hearing that like from you. And I thought it was a bit like silly. I thought it was a bit like cringy. And so that was definitely like a big adjustment for me, that you were suddenly
That's
like,
true. It's
and the, you know, because what I have grown to like is the whole like the visualizing thing, like letting yourself believe, you know, call it manifesting, like letting yourself believe like, I'm gonna be a billionaire, and you're like, okay, relax, like let's have a seat.
Yeah! What are you gonna do? In the next year, I'm gonna become a millionaire because it will get me to ask the questions that I'm not even asking. And you know what else it's gonna do? It's gonna allow me to have the best experiences with my family and with my friends. Yeah! I'm crazy. Let's go!
You know, that was like really intense.
This is exactly why I want to have you on the podcast, because I feel you provide a much needed perspective to this whole thing, where my brother and I can kind of get a little bit into fairy tale land, which is good. And I think what you're pointing out, that it is like there's a benefit to it as well. But it's like, it's no secret that you haven't exactly taken to these things that I've decided to do yourself. You very much kept your distance.
No, yeah. We're not.
In fact, I think the only thing that you've done on the list of things that we've been exploring.
I just realized I have like a fist sitting here with a fist.
You're a bit nervous.
I have a fist in my lap.
Is I think meditation is the one thing that you dabbled in briefly.
Oh my God. For
like
5 minutes.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's not like, I don't think, have I ever tried to get you to do a Tony Robbins event?
Yeah.
I have?
Yeah. We did a little together.
Well, what was that like?
I mean, I'm open to it. I think I would feel very differently if I was in like a room of people who like I knew, because I just would find that very difficult to like open up like that, or like jump around, or like say things out loud. Like I prefer to just like sit and observe and learn and take in, and even in front of you I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, we did a little bit like his business.
We did a course, one of his courses.
Yeah.
Well, we started
it, but it did give me a little taste into the aggressive passion for life.
Good times create weak people. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people. Strong people create good times. My whole thing is leaders anticipate, losers react. If you can anticipate what's coming, you can really take advantage. If you wait till it hits you, you're in trouble.
Okay, I've got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Do you think I've lost my mind?
No.
What do you think's going on?
I think you're just like trying to do it all.
What does that mean?
You're a great example of like one life to live, like not gonna do it like that, gonna go my own way. Like you're going your own way, you know, and you're not, you're just doing your own thing. I'm very used to it by now. At first, I think when you told me you were going to...
It's been a minute. It's not like something that started.
No, yeah, you haven't like
7 years.
Quit your job and now you're, like you never took the job, which is, you never did the traditional kind of thing. So I'm used to it now, but no, I don't think you've lost your mind. I think you're just like figuring it out.
So we talked about this the other day, but I want to ask you so that everyone can hear it. What do you think is, if anything, well, actually, that's not fair. Let me rephrase it. What do you think is interesting about my brother and I doing this podcast?
Doing this podcast
like, for you personally, like, is there anything in it that you find interesting? like what basically the format is, we're going to look at all the things that we've done and are going to do, and just allow for a much more deep dive exploration of those things that won't ever make it on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that interesting?
Yeah, I think what has me on the edge of my seat is literally on the edge of my seat is if you're going to like talk in your funny accents. And for everyone that doesn't understand, I'm going to out them right now. These boys are Danish, 100% Danish. They've spoken Danish to each other like what your whole life, and then kind of English, insert a little bit here and there. But now they kind of mostly speak English, but then they want to slip into Danish. So then sometimes I just hear them straight up speaking English, but with like, it sounds like they're doing impressions in there, like with Danish, really thick Danish accents. So I'm really curious to hear if it comes out on this podcast.
Well, you guys will have been listening to the podcast. Let us know, have we been speaking with a Danish accent, or do we sound completely normal? Because I don't believe it.
Hey, Danish accents are normal. Don't hit on a Danish accent. They're fine. No, I'm actually, what's interesting to me in all seriousness is your dynamic as brothers. You have a very interesting, like, and somewhat stereotypical, like, big brother, little brother relationship that I've observed, having known you since your brother, like, before he hit puberty.
That's true.
Oh, that sweet little boy. That sweet, sweet boy.
12-year-old Carl Emil.
Oh, so sweet. Just so sweet.
The one who desperately was asking you when you guys were, when I wasn't in the room, like, has Mads smoked a cigarette before?
He wasn't desperately asking me.
But like, so concerned.
Honestly, it was like, that was like one of our first little moments that we kind of had together as like, we're cool, you know, like we looked at each other and he kind of like trusted me a little bit. I don't know, maybe he'll say different. And he was just like, Phoebe, has Mads ever smoked a cigarette? And I looked at him and I was like, no, you sweet little boy, he has not.
And then what did he say?
He was like, okay, good. Oh, I'm so worried. I thought he had, you know, he was worried about you. It's just, that was yeah. So yeah, you have an interesting dynamic, and that will be, I think, probably quite, I don't know, therapeutic for you guys to like talk it out in this kind of formal way.
I think it was already interesting for this first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add that I don't want to just have you on for more of like a light tone.
Yeah.
I think genuinely all the things that I'm doing with my brother are only like half of the things that I'm doing to pursue these goals. I feel like the other half is like choosing to start a family, choosing to move out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like all the lifestyle choices that we've made as a family, I feel like are also not entirely traditional, one could say.
Totally. We have a lot to unpack. We got home birth, homestead, home school, home cook, home.
I was like, whoa, where's this going? So I want to like, that's why I also want to have you on to talk about those things, because it's genuinely like the
That's
other
my
half.
jam.
Thank you for being on.
You're so welcome.
And that's it for Wifey Wednesdays. We'll be back next week.
We have to make like a little jingle, like Wifey Wednesdays. So great. You have to harmonize with
I can't.
What? Okay. Goodbye. Thank you for coming. That's not right.
We'll be right back with the rest of the episode after this short announcement. This week's episode of the Edit Podcast, The Experiment of the Decade, is sponsored by Vibroacoustics. Vibroacoustics is changing the way we experience music, combining audible and physical sensations. Feel the vibrations of sound to achieve better mental health and well-being. You can learn more using the link below. If you haven't already downloaded the Sigma app, go ahead and do so now. It's the only app an entrepreneur needs. Sigma is one step above alpha. If you're if you're a popular, successful, but highly independent and self-reliant person, a lone wolf who doesn't need the approval of the masses, you should definitely download the Sigma subscription. There's an insane breathwork library in there that we've made. There's some incredible business tools related to sales, marketing, and social media. there's also a truly incredible habit community where you can join challenges and get yourself to commit and be accountable to actually getting the habits implemented into your life that you want, whether that be doing an ice bath a day or doing daily breath work, daily meditation, starting to run, committing to training in some way to become a better business owner. All of these things are available on the Sigma app. Download now for free, completely free in the App Store. It'll be on Google Play Store shortly as well. Again, completely free.
These words of curing depression, like by no means have we gotten there. I can only speak for myself, but
no, me neither.
Recently I've had a big dip in where I felt like I was mentally.
So I want to get to that, because I think that's a really interesting starting point. I also don't want to just skim over the fact that I didn't say what my story is, but it is, to me, what's interesting now is that we've physically kind of come together.
Yeah.
Like, you were living in Malta, I'm living on this small island off the coast of mainland Denmark with my wife and my kids and my dogs on a farm in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, why are you here right now?
Yeah, we're gonna be together for the rest of the year, kind of like looking at it as like a boot camp. And personally, it's I see these days as an opportunity to get back on track. You know, I was living in Malta, had like a part-time sales job while my plan was to be growing my own coaching business, but very quickly those things fell apart and I fell back to old habits. I smoked weed from when I was 14 to 23. And I didn't fall back to smoking weed, even though it's legal in Malta, but I started gambling, specifically playing poker and things like that. And before, I also had a huge gambling issue, using our mom's credit card to play virtual slots and things like that. So basically, it feels like I've taken so many steps backwards from where I was, the things that I did last year, running my first 100K and, completing challenges like 75 hard and getting my first coaching clients, to just living purely focused on comfort and convenience and instant gratification. So now I'm here for us to focus on, amongst other things, taking our business to the next level, and getting back in the flow of doing hard shit every single day. That was things that I was preaching and talking a lot about last year, and it makes sense when you're doing it and you feel the benefits of doing what's hard first. But I've fallen out of touch with that, so now I'm here to do all that again and just get back to the real world and what's actually important.
Mm-hmm. And I can add to that my focus has been very much on building the business, creating products and services, and I have spent no time letting anyone know that this stuff exists. I have a few core clients, and I realize that there's just so much more that can be done, and a big thing that I want to push for is creating content, and doing this podcast is a huge part of that.
So we recently talked about the whole like hard work, and how it feels like that's just one of those common denominators that every successful person in their respective industry has. And we talked about whether or not like we feel like we kind of had that trait to begin with. I think we can all agree that it's something you can train, but you've really been dialing that in, and now we're like, at least from my perspective, I feel like this is like an opportunity to like finally give that a shot from my side, to really work as hard as possible and then see if we can, what progress we can make.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the beginning of something, even though it's been over a year in the making. So I built a successful business with my good friend Taylor that we used to have a podcast for called The Burning Boat Show. Early days called Burning Boat Business, where we documented our success and failures as a business. But we decided a year ago to go our separate ways and see what it felt like to build the exact business that we wanted to.
So what was the business you were making back then?
Well, we were making a production company. We were working with clients making documentaries, and we started making commercials, and we both loved doing that. And Taylor and I are still great friends. We didn't leave because we got in a fight or anything. We just separated because I think well, I'll speak for myself. I started to feel like I was compromising on even just small things and wanting to make sure that Taylor also wanted to do those things, knowing that some things that I wanted to try, he didn't necessarily think was a good idea, and vice versa. So we were constantly making these small compromises, and I started to get the feeling like I really just feel like I need to experience what it's like to really go for whatever direction I feel like makes the most sense, both creatively, artistically, and especially business-wise. And it's been a really tough year because it has been a lot more difficult than I thought. I've had a much more challenging time doing what I want to do, which is, I think I'm realizing now because I've been unsure of exactly what it is that I want to do. And it's funny that, I mean, we just had a big meeting right before this podcast where we really honed in on exactly what it is that we want to be pushing for in the next 6 months, specifically starting with these first 40 days where we're physically together, which is very similar, funnily enough, to what I was actually doing at Burning Boat originally, although it's still, just because something's similar doesn't mean that it's the same by any means. It's very different. But before we get into that, I still think it's very interesting to talk about why are we even doing this? It's something that's come up multiple times, with my wife Phoebe yesterday, and the YouTube videos and whose podcast is this, and you just mentioned our business. And I think it's interesting to look at what exactly is this business, and is it really a business that we're starting together, or is it my business that you're helping me with, or what do you view it as?
Yeah, what we can try to do is I can try to say what I see it as, just going off the rip.
Yeah.
And then you can say your perspective of it, because I'm sure it's different. Especially that I said our business, when maybe it's more your business.
I love that you say that though.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to look at what is it actually.
Yeah. And I like the name that we came up with in terms of the experiment, because it feels like that's what it is. This ultimately, I feel like everything is the documentary, and what the documentary is it's our lives. It's the title, The Edit. It's the idea that we can edit our internal world, our thoughts, our decisions, the way we see and then experience our past memories, what they mean. I used to think that me dropping out was the worst thing that could possibly happen, and for many years afterwards it was the best thing that could possibly happen. And I'm sure at some point this low that I've been at will also be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I see this all as now I'm taking a very zoomed out view of it, but I see it all as I'll repeat your words in terms of, just going after these dreams that we've had as kids, and just deciding that that's the thing to do, and to work hard, and whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, we'll find out whether it's possible to kind of live in a more fulfilled state the majority of the time. We'll find out if that's possible, or if by doing things that are hard and where you feel frustrated and scared or afraid, if that makes you feel more happy in some weird way, is that what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a big zigzag, I think, away from the question you gave me, but that's where I went.
Here's the way I see it.
And what's the question again, maybe?
Trying to understand exactly what is this podcast just for fun, or is it promoting a business, and what is that business behind it, and what does it do, and who owns that business, and what is that? You talked very much from an emotional perspective about what the purpose is and what we're doing, which is obviously more important, one could argue. But I think I was trying to explain this to my wife last night, which is everything that I'm doing is about this series called The Edit. This podcast is also called The Edit. It's The Edit Podcast. So it's going even more in depth on things that the series won't be able to do because it's limited to, you know, whatever, 9-10 hours of runtime. When we've been on so many adventures that there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of content and stories and insights that won't ever make it onto the screen. So this is really what this podcast is for. So everything that I do in my life is about that project. I view that as my fucking be all end all, because I see there being a season 2 and a season 3, and this is just the first step. This is like everything to me. The edit is everything. One of the things that I feel like is being explored in the edit is building a successful business and becoming wealthy and being financially secure and being able to provide for others. And that business was created and has been kind of like pieced together over the last year. And it's essentially a marketing company called Dragon Marketing and Scaling Agency, where...
Although maybe we'll call it the edit.
That we'll get to that. We'll get to that because I originally started a business called The Edit, and it was a coaching and retreat business where I wanted to organize physical retreats for people to come and ultimately leave feeling like they knew what they wanted to do with their life. And there was a course as well that was about being able to make your own documentary. And then there was one-on-one coaching. I've had multiple one-on-one coaching clients over the last year. So it's been kind of rolling that way. And then recently I said, I actually want to start an agency and try and multiply what's working, which and broaden it a little bit, and actually help businesses, because I started to work with businesses organically as we were filming in different places, starting to meet people, business owners. I just started working with them. So I was like, well, maybe I can replicate this and have multiple clients, more than I would actually be able to handle myself one-on-one. So let's start a marketing agency. Call it fucking Dragon Marketing, because I happen to have a dragon tattoo, so I thought that made sense. Dragon Marketing and Scaling Agency, where we help businesses scale their company by 30 to 120% in the next 6 months. And there's multiple ways we do that, but that's the gist of it, basically. Combination of doing remote sales work, doing social media content, or marketing, specifically online ads. Those were like the 3 pillars that I felt like made a lot of sense to offer and see if that was possible. At the same time, you were doing your coaching business, right?
Now you're talking about like the beginning of this year.
Yeah, like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
You had a few coaching clients.
And I was doing talks at schools, high schools and universities.
A big thing was you were barely able to make it financially, and you were still getting support from your parents, from our parents, and you wanted to see if there was a way to not be financially dependent on your parents anymore, because that was a big burden that you felt responsible for alleviating off of them.
Yeah.
So you decided to get a job on the side, specifically becoming a sales representative for a company, and you moved to Malta. And that's what you were talking about, wanting to split up your time, keep working in your business, and also become really great at sales.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, shit, this may be interesting, because I am looking for people to do sales. I'm looking for salesmen. And I started feeling like you were becoming really good at sales. We've done multiple sales workshops even before all this together.
Yeah.
And so I know what you know. Maybe you lack the experience, but I would say so do I. I mean, I have more experience actually selling things, but it's not like it's night and day. So we started just naturally talking about, well, maybe you could work in the agency and become the head of sales in Dragon Marketing.
I mean, yes. Well, I feel like the very first thing was, I remember you called me up that one day, and kind of intensely was just like, it like, why are we? Because we once tried to get in business together with the edit, the retreat.
Yes, that's true.
Like years ago, and
years ago.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of conflict, and we thought, maybe we should both. Maybe we'll feel more fulfilled doing our own thing and kind of building it up, or more specifically me, right? There's definitely been this thing, you being my big brother, and there's a common theme that continues to come up, mainly from my side, saying that like, that I'm in your shadow or things along that front.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember you calling me up when I was in Malta and kind of being like, look, why are we going at it separately? Like, or like the theme is we could go so much further together than we ever could individually. And then moreover, you know, you very clearly asked me like ultimately, what is it you want? And we realized that we had very similar answers. Right. And from that, it's kind of like, well, then what the fuck are we doing not moving forward together when we've had, like, we've literally done all these experiences, ayahuasca, cold exposure, you know, meeting Wim Hof and having a few days with him, all these retreats, workshops related to business and personal health. We've done everything together, and we're brothers. And we've had so many conversations where we feel like we're the only ones that we know who like gets it from each other's perspective. Like, right. Why wouldn't we?
You understand what I want to do, and I understand what you want to do.
Yeah. And like the things we talk about in our opinions and beliefs.
And that's where it's so much more, in my opinion, than you just being an employee in my business. Yeah. And I think it's an important distinction to be able to make because of that. That's why I started with the edit being, that's the main thing. That's also the main thing for you.
Yeah.
Because what you want to do in that series is everything that you want to do. I remember you clearly saying, look, I think this is going to be different because even though maybe you're leading this more, I know that I have this thing that's my thing. And if I can get that, I don't care what I have to do to be able to get there. And I'd never felt that kind of, I don't know, I just believed you in a different way because I think what you were referencing with us trying to start a business, a retreat business, like 2-3 years ago, is extremely relevant to also talk about, which was this, like what you brought up, this like resentment on both sides. You feeling like ultimately I was the one making all the decisions because I had more leverage than you had. I was the one with the connections. I was the one with the money. I was the one who could make things happen. So naturally, I started to have more say in every conversation. Like, what should it really be about? You know, who should we really sell to? And because of that, you started to feel resentment. And I started to feel resentment because I didn't feel like you were doing even half of what you could be doing to make this business work, which is because you didn't feel like it was yours.
Yeah.
And so I remember sitting you down and saying, like, look, I don't think we can work together because I think you need to do your own thing. And it's not possible for you to do your own thing if you're always feeling like you're below me. You need to go out, have your own success, and that's that. But you're right, it changed because I started to have this, it's changed after the ayahuasca. Because I had this incredible experience in my final ceremony, and it was linked to something that you experienced in, I don't know which one it was, your second or third ceremony.
With the former life.
Yeah, you experienced like a former life where we were Vikings on a battlefield dying together in some epic battle.
I said to Mads that I had this, like, I guess you could call it a vision, that we had been like Viking brothers and we died on the battlefield together.
That's super interesting, man.
Yeah. Like, it felt like stabbed through the heart for me.
Wow.
And what happened to me? That was just like something that I was like, thought about how we've done so much together.
Yeah.
And then like a special bond, like, well, what if we were there together?
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
And then I had an experience where I saw these two beams of light shooting out into the universe from planet Earth, and I knew that it was our lights, like your light and my light next to each other, and it made the entire beam more than just one individual one. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm missing something here, that whatever it is, I don't know exactly what it is yet, but there's something that means that we need to be working together.
And then a tough thing is that what you just said about how back then, you know, I wasn't doing half the work that I able to. Didn't have my own success to kind of let myself rest in.
You weren't confident. You didn't have any results.
The tough thing is that in many ways I'm still at the same spot.
Yeah.
That you've been building this habit of insane hard work, and you've been getting real results that are impressive. You know, and I've definitely done some things. Mainly, the main results I have is in the physical world, but specifically over these last 6 months, I have completely gone back to that kind of person, it feels like. And you know, it sounded like you were talking about now, because we had that conversation maybe over the phone, you know, 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was an exciting month, which it usually is a new project.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, you know, fell apart in many ways and have not been doing nearly any of the work possible.
Yeah.
So I still haven't gotten my own success on that front.
And recently, some resentment has started to build up again for that reason. Like, hey, I thought we were doing this together. Why haven't you done the things that you said you were going to do? And it just has slowly started to feel like, oh, fuck, the same exact thing is going to happen as it did when we tried to build retreat business together.
Yeah.
So what's different? Are we just making the same mistake again?
Well, for one, we've never tried to have this in-person boot camp kind of. I know I keep calling it boot camp.
So explain this, because there's an added element here, which you're talking about, starting the gambling again, really feeling like you were in a low place. And I'll quote you, and we can cut this out if you don't. But you said to me, I feel like I'm maybe at the lowest point I've ever felt.
Yeah. It was a different kind of low. Not
sure.
Was, is still kind of a different kind of low. Because now I have so much more, not just knowledge, because we all fucking know what we should be doing and what would be good for us, but a lot more experience of pushing through and actually doing hard things. And compared to when I was 18, just having dropped out, I've actually done things like, I've already mentioned it, but like running 100K, which I'm extremely proud of. And I, you know that I'm capable of getting out of a similar kind of state. But maybe that also makes it feel that much more worse, because it felt like I was I had climbed so much higher, or climbed out from so deep down mentally, even to the point where I was starting to work with other people and actually having an impact, you know, on
and a real impact. And
the people I wanted to work with was myself 5 years ago. So other young people who are struggling and things like that. And then, and then kind of, you know, to say with confidence that me going to Malta is going to be the right thing. It's going to lead to me growing even more and all that stuff. And then having it lead to where it did. And, you know, some days kind of breaking down in some sense. So it just maybe that's the thing, because I climbed so high or climbed out of such a deep
higher
hole.
than you've been.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah.
And felt like I had learned so much from the best people in their respective fields in the world, and actually done the things they said, then it just feels like that much more of a loss, right?
To answer my own question about what's different.
Oh, what's different?
Or what am I just making the same? Because so I get a lot of pressure from the other member in my family about, here you are doing all this hard work, like you said, having these results. Why are you bringing your brother, who is not doing that, into this? Isn't it sabotaging what you may be able to do without him? And it's a tough question.
Yeah, definitely.
that I struggle to answer sometimes. But ultimately, I think there's two things. One is, you are still my brother. Mm-hmm. Like, if you weren't that, I think it would be hard to argue that you'd be here right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, all the things that have happened, it's like, that's definitely a big motivator. But on the other side, I also think there has been, ever since we started this journey 7 years ago, it has been like this: high, low, high, low, high, low. But I'd like to think, and I think I'm right in saying, that the highs have consistently been higher. Every time it's been high, it's been low, and you've come up to a higher spot. Yeah. So following that logic, maybe it's about to go higher than it's ever been before. Yeah. And that's just part of like who the fuck you are.
Yeah, maybe.
And so
hopefully.
I feel like it's,
I shouldn't say hope.
It's just like I just can't not follow this gut feeling. It's crazy. I mean, I think we'll get into this is kind of an introductory episode. Let's just be clear about that. The format will be much more like looking at these incredible modalities, and we have some crazy stories, like going to Peru for 10 days and drinking ayahuasca 4 times.
Yeah.
With the shaman in the fucking Amazon rainforest.
That was a little over a year ago.
But I think it's just relevant also for us to understand like where we're coming from and what's true and what's not true. And I think
also what's at stake, kind of. I mean, you said to me one of the last days before I left Malta that like either this is going to be the best fucking end to a year ever, or it's going to be the worst one.
Yeah.
And you said some things that were like hard to hear, obviously, but very like a reality check. Like,
what did it say?
You know, that if you can't like now, so the thing that's different also in a very physical way is that we're together. We're like, I'm living basically next door here for the next 40 days. For once, you don't really have any big commitments. You've closed off most of the clients you've been working with.
I've cleared my schedule.
Yeah, essentially. So we really have the opportunity to be physically together, to put into action all of our plans and actually work towards the goal. So that's also something that's different. But you said that if with this setup and being here with you, someone who knows me more than anyone else, who's like arguably should be able to bring out the best version of me, and obviously that's up to myself, not someone else. But if I in that situation can't step up and get things done, then it's most likely that I'm just not cut out for that kind of success in my life ultimately. And like whether you said that to kind of get me to wake up a little bit is, in my opinion, aside the point, because there's a lot of truth to that. I don't know what I started that point by saying.
No, you just said that I said some hard truths.
Yeah. So it really is an experiment.
And I also said like we're in extremely different positions.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I've had some forward momentum, and you feel like you're arguably in one of the worst places you've been in.
Yeah.
The opposite. And here I am saying, and we're about to go fucking crazy on content. We're going to do podcasts. We're going to record all this video stuff, and you're going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I realize that's a lot to, well, I ask of you, I guess. But I also did say yesterday, look, if you don't want to do this and you want to wait until you're feeling better, that's also okay. But you still wanted to do this.
Obviously, because what am I supposed to wait for? Like, that's the good thing about everything we've learned, which is that, okay, maybe I've been in a super big low and been messing up and not showing up and letting myself and you down and our parents and things like that. But that doesn't mean that it needs to take as long to bounce back from that.
Yeah.
You know, even just the last 2 days we've had actually showing up will do a lot of fucking things. Like the very clear decision we just made before this about what to pursue business-wise for these next 40 days at least.
Yeah. So that's a great point, because I feel like I have an insane inventory of products and services. I've got an app I've made. I've got documentary consulting, which is a service that I provide to help get investments for films. I make pitch decks for projects. I'm a one-on-one coach. I'm a business coach. We do remote sales work. We do social media content creation. We do online ads. What else? There's a course about making a film called Netflix Worthy. Well, whatever. I'm sure I even missed some things in there. There's too much. And we were watching a video while we were having lunch, and the guy, Alex Ramosi,
shout out,
was saying one of the best things you can do is to not spread yourself too thin and really focus in on one thing and give that a damn good shot, because any of the things could work. It's just about what you choose to work on.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments which of the modalities you'd like to see us talk about in the next episode. What are you most interested in? What's something you don't know about, or what do you want to know more information about?
And mention what they are again.
So that could be darkness therapy, psychedelics, specifically ayahuasca, LSD, DMT, or psilocybin, ultra running, mountaineering, cold exposure, breath work, self-help, mega events, entrepreneurship, fitness and health or diet.
Yeah.
Or anything else, because these first few episodes, I don't know, let's call it like 20 episodes, because I think some of these will take more than one episode to really fully unpack. Well, what's next? You know, we're planning on doing Vipassana retreat at some point this year. We're continuing to shoot the documentary. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, we can reveal what the plan is. Like, what are these results that we're specifically looking for?
Yeah, let's do that in the next episode.
Yeah, like what are the dreams?
Yeah, because what does becoming multi-millionaires, professional athletes really mean?
Yeah.
We have that in detail mapped out.
It's not just a dream anymore. There's a plan.
There's an actual plan.
Don't miss next week's episode of the Edit Podcast. Subscribe now.